Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody, for joining us at the Board of Education meeting. Today is Monday, November 19th. Quick public service announcement here. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. I'm hearing a little echo. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the School District of the Chathams Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted at the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the Chatham Borough, Chatham Township, Library of the Chathams, Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP. Mr. DeQuillo, could you take attendance, please?
Mr. Gilpillis. Hello. Mr. Ronick. Ms. Chambers.
Here.
Ms. Chicarelli.
Here.
Ms. Clark. Ms. Kenny.
Here.
Mr. Ryan. Here. Mr. Valenti. Here. And Ms. Weber.
Here.
8 present and accounted for.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to forego any president's comments at the beginning, and then, oh, I apologize. If you're able to, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to thank our students, though, for coming out and helping us film. Mason in the back, Luke here on my left, so thank you, gentlemen, for helping out. Dr. LaSousa, should we go right to the auditor's report and then come back to you for the superintendent's report? So we have our annual audit. We just did it, went over in finance. Mr. Gilfillan can add any color to that. He's the chair of finance. But I'd like to invite our auditors up to give us a summary of how we're doing financially across the district, compared even to other districts, if you want to throw that in.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Mason, how's that sound?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight to present the preliminary results of the audit for the 2018 fiscal year. It's a very, very good report, as it always has been in the last couple years in the school district of the Chathams. As was mentioned, we just met for an hour in finance and went over the questions from the finance committee. And I'm just going to give you a brief 2 or 3 minute overview of what we talked about and the overall results. First of all, I'd like to thank the administration, Dr. LaSousa and Peter and Tatiana, who spent a lot of time with us during the audit process, making sure we get all the information we need to complete the audit and file it within the state deadlines. The opinion, which is the most important component, because the state will view anything other than a clean opinion as very negative, and as has been the past couple years, it's a clean opinion, and again, the highest level of opinion you can receive from an audit firm. Overall, you have very, very good financial results. Your fund balance is consistent with where it has been over the last couple of years, which is highly looked upon by your rating agencies when you issue debt or when they do your bond ratings. They look at your reserves and also look at your financial position and take all that in consideration. And again, they look at for consistency, and you are right in where you should be. Compared to other districts, you have a very, very good financial structure. You have a very, very good administrative office who maintains the control processes and also your financial statements. And they do a very, very good job, leading to the fact that there are no findings of exceptions from a control perspective or from a compliance perspective. So again, 2 years in a row of no findings, which is very, very rare for a school district from when an auditor looks at their records and issues their final report. You also have taken advantage of state reserves and put money aside for capital improvements, because we know every district needs capital money to maintain buildings, so you take advantage of that. And you also consistently come up with the same amount of money every year to put towards your future year's budgets. So just overall, clean opinion, very, very good records, very, very good district, high-performing district, and it's a pleasure to perform the audit of this district because it's one of the cleaner districts that we do throughout the state of New Jersey in terms of all the information that's provided to us. So with that, I would be more than happy to open up to any questions that anyone may have, and that concludes my brief overview. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Scott? Matt, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that? No?
Joe, I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment. We often heap praise on Dr. LaSousa Peter Tequila does a fantastic job. We only know that he does a fantastic job when no one's talking about what he does. That means he's doing everything perfectly, and I think we're lucky to have you. So thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, but I'd be remiss if to say the results that Scott graciously gave are a result of the whole finance team or the whole board office team that works in the central office. You know, I couldn't do it without, you know, Tatiana Gilbert's help, who's the assistant, you know, all the way down from Jerry Gessel, who's my secretary, to Amy Connolly, who does the payroll, to Roseanne Taylor, who does the paying, and Kelly Caffrey, that does the purchasing, and our new addition, Nicole Cataldo, who works on transportation. So if I didn't have that nucleus, you know, it'd be impossible. So it's really the support staff does all the work. And as I tell them, if something good happens, it's because they work hard. If something bad happens, it's because I make a mistake. So I'm happy that they're all, you know, doing all the good stuff.
Well, please pass the board's thanks.
I will. Thank you very much, Sal, and I appreciate your comments very much.
Scott, just one quick question. I know you had no official recommendations. If, as you know, you do other districts, do you share recommendations that are, you know, they didn't legally qualify for a recommendation, but if you see another district doing something, you know, outstanding that we're not doing, you work with Peter and share? This
Absolutely.
Is how, okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I know it's not an official, it doesn't fall into the official state designation, but you do share information with Peter
Yeah,
and his team
and
as it
Peter and I
comes up?
talk not just at audit time.
Right.
I will give him heads up on things that may be coming down the pike or things that we've identified. And Peter's very good with calling me in terms of issues that are coming up, or did I hear about this? What do you think about this? So that it's proactive as opposed to reacting to a problem. So I think that's part of the reason why you see things so clean, is that there's ongoing communication throughout the year regarding best practices and so forth.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, we're not proud. We'll take any good idea from anywhere.
I will say that I'm
Best
not proud
ideas
to
are
say
stolen.
when something
That's right.
unusual comes up. Hey, Scott, how should I be doing this, or what's the best way to do it? I ask a question first.
Right. Okay, perfect. Any additional questions that may have come up? No? Excellent. Thank you, Scott. Oh, I'm sorry, Scott, one second.
This was Scott provided us with a draft tonight in Finance Committee and a brief overview here, but then he will be assembling the full report, and we should have that probably in January sometime, because the state is a little bit delayed this year in furnishing us with some of the information required for the final report. And once we have that, it'll be available to you, and we'll also post it on the website as we have done in past years.
Okay, fantastic. So January-ish timeframe, depending on the state releasing those numbers you mentioned.
Yeah, I think the safe bet would be January for the final report.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Fantastic. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Thank you, John, for coming out. I can't
He's
see
over
everybody. Thank you, John.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
Thanks. Drive safe. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving right along in the program, over to the superintendent's report.
Yes, so the main item under my section is the presentation of the programs of studies for CMS and CHS. And as you all know, on an annual basis, we invite the principals of the high school and the middle school in to just give an overview of any of the changes that are included in their programs for students and courses that they are offering. So Mr. Groh and Mr. Horsky are with us tonight to do that. And then after they present publicly tonight, they'll begin to put in place the official process whereby students select their courses for next year. And then our counselors will be hard at work really right around Valentine's Day, beginning to schedule kids and build a master schedule for next year. So Mr. Groh is going to take the stage first, and then he'll turn it over to Mr. Horsky.
The last number of years where we've added a number of courses and also changed some title of courses and course descriptions. We have a very light program of studies, or changes to a program of studies for the 1920 school year. One of the things we are still bound by are our graduation requirements, which is for each of our students in Chatham High School or any public school in New Jersey to complete 120 credits in a variety of areas. And you see the areas outlined up here on the first slide. I would tell you that most of our students are graduating with 140 credits, and some students who never take a study hall could graduate with up to 160 credits over their 4 years. But the minimum requirement is 120 credits. One of the things that is changing, or is in the process of changing for next year, is our state assessment requirement, which has been PARC. It will be changed to a new name called New Jersey Learning Standards Student Learning Standards Assessment. As you see at the bottom of the slide, the current class of 2020 and beyond should be taking the ELA 9 and ELA 10 and having to pass the ELA 10 to meet the graduation requirement this year and next year moving forward. And students who take Algebra 1 Geometry and or Algebra 2 in the high school should be taking at least 2 of those courses. They should be taking the state assessment, and they must pass Algebra 1 to meet the state requirement. Our course offerings are at different levels. Our required core courses are at the foundations level, our college prep level, honors and advanced placement. So there are different placements or different opportunities for students to take courses at different levels. We offer our electives in our core subject area, so our math, English, science, social studies, and world language. We also offer electives in our art, business, computer education, design and media technology, family consumer science, music, and theater as well. And most of those courses are for a semester long. They're 2.5 credits. And one of the things that we find is it provides an opportunity for students to have experience more courses during their time here at Chatham High School. The exception would be the electives in our core areas where they are typically full-year courses, with some of them being semesters. And then we also offer virtual course opportunity through a provider called Eduseer. What we tend to find is that a lot of our students, 40 to 50 students, end up taking advantage of that opportunity really more over the summer to get a 2.5 credit course completed so they can focus on their coursework when September hits and they're back in school. We do have a handful of students who do take an Eduseer course or a virtual course online to complement the courses that they take here at the high school as well throughout the course of the year. So looking into next year, the proposed additions we have, we only have American Sign Language 2. This year is the first year we've had American Sign Language at Chatham High School or in the district. It's American Sign Language 1. We currently have 5 sections at the high school with about 75 students enrolled. So what we are anticipating is about 3/4 of those students will be going to ASL 2 next year. And we will get a new crop of students who are going to begin ASL 1 either as incoming freshmen next year or as students who are looking for a second language in addition to what they've been taking while they've been here at the high school. And that's the only new course that we're looking at for next year. All other courses that have been in our program of studies will remain as they have been. One of the things, or 3 things here I do want to focus on are things we're looking to monitor as we move forward. As you know, this is the first year we're moving to semester grading. We no longer have 4 quarters. It's 2 semesters. So we're going to keep an eye on that, making sure that we are rolling that out as well as we can, making sure there's as much communication and transparency with grades for our students and their parents along the way, so that as we get towards the end of the first semester, there are no surprises. And students have plenty of opportunity to understand where they sit at any given time during a semester and can adjust their study habits accordingly come the end of the first semester or end of the school year. We're also looking at, if we just take our numbers going out of our senior class and our numbers coming in from 8th grade, we are looking at an additional 46 students coming into the high school next year or thereabout. So one of the things we want to make sure we're focusing on is our class size. Not just our total class size in the building, but we do want to focus on maintaining our class size of between 22 and 24 students in each of our academic classes. So we want to keep an eye on that, and then obviously our facility. We've built in small pieces over the last 7 or 8 years, and we want to ensure that what we built a few years ago that has opened up on the in the new math wing, we are able to hold the numbers and the staff that we have here at the high school with some room to move around if we needed to within the building. So as we look at that, monitor that, and project out, we'll determine at what point do we bring the superintendent into the mix and requesting additional building if that's what ends up needing to be happening. And then this year we added 15 new instructional staff members here at Chatham High School, which is the largest incoming group of teachers that we've had in my time here. And we want to continue to work with them this year and into their second year next year to ensure that they are meeting our Chatham High School standard, and it is they are the teachers that we want to continue to move along as we continue to grow with our student body. So those are the things we're looking to monitor, being that we're not adding additional courses to the high school. Our program of studies for 1920 will be on the high school website after the curriculum night in beginning of January. We'll also be sending it out to all high school and 8th grade parents, so that just before course selection in January, beginning of February, and we will be sharing changes and expectations of our students at our class meetings in January as well. And that's what we're looking at for next year. Any questions? Yep. Mm-hmm.
To offer colleges for our juniors their first marking period grades?
For our current juniors or current
The
seniors?
seniors looking to get into college, or any
Yes.
bright junior
What
that's
we
ready to look
did
ahead?
what we did this year was, and it actually caused a little bit of confusion. We made very public that we had the ability to take what we're calling a snapshot, which basically are the grades on November 12th, which would be typically the first quarter of the year, for any students whose college that they've applied to is looking at those first, or what would have been the first quarter grades. So we did have teachers' input for every senior, the grade on November 12th that was in the grade book. And that was their snapshot that the students were able to use for the schools for the colleges who require that first quarter grade.
So it's not sent out automatically. It's only those that requested it.
Correct. It's the college. It's not sent out automatically to all colleges where students have applied. There
Like
are
the semester
schools.
grades are.
Semester grades are, yes,
Right.
and
I'm just trying to make that-
always have been. There's been nothing that has changed, other than
Right.
what used to be the quarter one report card is now a 12th grade interim report that they can utilize for the schools who need that first quarter of grades.
So they're available if students need them.
And we do have them posted in the parent portal, so that if students wish to send it on their own, it's available to them to print and send.
Is that official?
It's not official from us, no. If they needed something official, that's going through their counselor. Otherwise, there isn't a need for official
Right.
first quarter grades.
Okay. Then I'm sorry, Mary, one quick question, and I'll pass it over to you. You had mentioned curriculum night in January, and again, I'm not looking for an answer, but just throwing out there as a suggestion. Maybe we can live stream that out now that we have the camera capability to live stream, because if parents are traveling, they're not going to be able to attend, but it's really important that they do see curriculum night. So again, I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just throwing it out there as maybe a possibility to live stream that out.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
It should
Mary.
definitely be a possibility. We're in the process of hooking up the cameras that are in the auditorium at this point, not right this minute,
Yeah,
but they
till
will
January.
be. We have some time, but it should be up. But that's one of the reasons why we, invested in those cameras, so that we could put out the presentations that we're doing for the parents who can't really be there
Right.
when we're doing those presentations.
Got it. Very good. Sorry, Mary, did you have a question?
I think Jill touched on it, but I just want to double check. So if there are juniors who might be in need of their first semester grades, they're able to access them and have them sent out as well?
First semester grades, they'll have a first semester report card. Absolutely.
They will. And even that November 12th snapshot,
No.
a junior will not have access to that?
Correct. Only seniors have that November 12th snapshot. I don't believe we've ever had a need for juniors to send out first quarter grades to any schools.
Well, I'm just thinking about recruited athletes. They usually need some sort
Anytime
of
a
snapshot.
recruited athletes needs something, then that school or the athlete would be working in
Perfect.
concert with the counselor, and we'd be able to secure anything our
Perfect.
athletes or any of our students who need something, earlier than what would be typical.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mr. Grower. Appreciate it. Up. Jill's up.
Okay, we good? This is not my style. I like to be like in the middle of the room and commanding my crowd. So I'm a little uncomfortable just standing still, but I'm going to try. We also don't have a tremendous number of changes at Chatham Middle School, but let me just run through them. And if you have any questions afterwards, I'm happy to answer them. In terms of courses, last year we actually added Introduction to Playwriting into our program of studies. We added it for a couple of reasons. First, we were looking at the possibility of our auditorium being under construction last spring. I'm sorry, not last spring, this fall. And we were worried that we would not be able to offer our stagecraft class with the construction happening. But obviously, we're not under construction. But we really added that just in case. And we also felt that it was nice to have an opportunity for students who are involved in a different side of theater, maybe not the actors or the builders, but the creators a little bit. And we wanted to give them an opportunity to write some plays, some manuscripts, whatever they were interested in. So we thought it was a great idea. We put it in our program of studies, but unfortunately we had very little interest in it. And so we ended up not running it. We had a tremendous amount of interest in our stagecraft class, so we actually ended up running stagecraft for that semester instead. So we decided to take the introduction to playwriting out of our program of studies and to really accommodate the interests and needs of our students and offer the stagecraft class for both semesters for next year. So that was really the impetus for the change. Oops, going the wrong way. Okay. American Sign Language. As a former world language supervisor and someone who sat in an American Sign Language at one of our in-service days for staff, and I was amazed by the teacher and the class and the experience in general and how hard it is, but not really hard. Hard for my brain because I'm 51 years old, but really it's a great, great class, and we're so thrilled to be able to put it into our program of studies for next year at the middle school. It's been so successful at Chatham High School, so we really think that introducing it even earlier at the middle school would be a great addition to our program. We're really not sure where we're going to introduce it. It's really going to be driven by student interest. So we're really toying with the idea of offering it possibly as a cycle class so that we could accommodate more students, because we would be able to offer it all 4 marking periods 2 times a day, so we would be able to accommodate more students. But just depending on the interest and our staffing needs between Chatham High School and Chatham Middle School, we could possibly also offer it either as an elective class or as a full year world language class. So we're just, we'll wait to see what the interest is. But right now I think we're leaning a little bit towards the cycle class because it would really give an opportunity for more students to have an opportunity to have some type of exposure to it. So we're really excited to have it back in. So we actually, in the program of studies, you'll see it does say that we're not sure if it will be offered as a cycle, an elective, or a world language standalone class. We made a couple of changes to our course names. Really because for 2 reasons. We felt that they aligned better to the core curriculum content standards, because those are defined by grade level and not necessarily by the subject being studied. So in grade 7, we used to call it pre-algebra, but the core curriculum content standards that we're teaching in grade 7 are Math 7. So we really felt that we should align with the content standards that we're teaching to. In addition, the state assessments that the students take, they take Math 7, they don't take pre-algebra. In grade 8, same exact reasoning. We had algebraic expressions, and instead of calling it algebraic expressions, we really felt that it best aligned to call it Math 8. The state assessments are Math 8, and so are the core curriculum content standards that we're teaching in that class. So just 2 name changes just because they align better. ELA, we also made a course name change. One of our cycles offerings is contemporary short stories, and we decided to change the name to Storytelling Studio. It was really a suggestion from the teacher, the supervisor, and also the students. It really better captures the spirit of the class. I read contemporary short stories, and I kind of get the idea of students reading a short story, maybe writing something, but it's really more of a studio type of course where it's a collaborative process where students work together in a studio setting designing different types of short stories. So it just shows a little bit more of the dynamic nature of the course, and we feel that it will appeal to more students if they realize what this course really looks like, and I think that title really captures it a lot better. And actually, it was our students that were really, really important in helping us to name the course appropriately. So just a name change. And that's it. That was fast, right? Any questions? Jill, are you going to that mic?
I don't have any questions, although I would like to just make a comment about the ASL class. I also sat in on the high school class, and it was phenomenal. You could hear a pin drop. I was amazed at how much the students were signing after just 6 weeks. And I'm an okay signer. My middle son, who's very quiet, he says about 5 words a day. I've never had more conversations with him than since he took sign in college. He's fluent. So it's a great expressive language, especially for kids who are maybe not as verbal, but somehow this opens doors. It allows them to express themselves more. They don't struggle with a foreign language trying to come up with the word, for restaurant. It's just an R and put it by your mouth, restaurant. So it's a great opportunity for different types of learners. And as I said, it's sort of like a superpower for the kids that they can converse with each other in sign, and it's kind of like nobody else knows what they're talking about other than their small little community, which gives them a slight insight into the deaf community. So it's really a great opportunity to expose our children to American Sign Language. So thank you for...
I'm excited. I think it'll be very popular at the middle school. I think it really lends itself. I think we can develop a program that will feed into the high school program that they already have that's so successful. So I think it'll be great wherever it's offered.
Yeah, it's really a great program. So thank you for bringing it up and encouraging it, and I think the kids will really enjoy it. Any questions for Mrs. Jaworski?
Okay.
No, you're good. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Next time we'll have a mic up here so you can command your audience. Dr. LaSousa, back to you for additional superintendent's report.
That is it on my end.
Are we going
Thank
with
you.
You're going with No Shave November?
I'm trying to imitate Mr. Henderson.
Good luck with that.
I don't think I'm going to catch up to him.
Excellent. Moving over to the business administrator's report, Peter.
Sure, I just want to note on the, just for a matter of reference on the agenda, we're just noting the school evacuation drills that we're required to have 2 times a year. So every student that's transported to school by a bus goes through mandatory evacuation drill. And they were completed for the, for the fall.
Okay.
So, on the going through the construction update, obviously the auditorium for the high school auditorium, the seats are installed, and the auditorium was used for the play. Unfortunately, the weather, knocked out the senior performance, but I know that there are still some issues with the seats that we're still working to correct for the last row way up in the balcony, and some spacing in the balcony as well. So that'll be addressed as soon as we can get the contractor to order the seats that are needed to make the corrections.
Okay. Prior to the the winter musical, or maybe not? I mean, it was great. I mean, Friday night.
When is the winter musical?
February? No, the high school musical. Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, you mean for the spring?
Well, okay.
For the spring, they should be done before the, yes.
It's like March, so winter to me.
That should be done before then. For winter, I was thinking, well, you're talking about like the December, and I'm not sure yet.
Okay,
I thought you were thinking
no,
like
I
the
meant for the
holiday
next production, which
the
is
holiday
in March.
They should be done by then, yes.
Okay, fantastic.
We'll keep pressing. For the central office addition, I feel like I'm becoming a broken record. The contractor is working on the interior work. They're still doing electrical painting in the ceilings. They've altered now due to delays in some materials. He anticipates his completion date will be December 14th. So that put a monkey wrench in our plans to move the 7th and 8th. I still need to, I had a meeting with John Cataldo and the architect trying to verify whether the 14th is realistic, and he said for most contractors it is. If they put the manpower out there, they can make it by then. So I just need to work with Dr. LaSousa to come up with a new moving date plan. So not sure if we should do that, wait till January, or try to do that the week between Christmas and New Year's. So we're just working at it.
This contractor's been very disappointing, and I just want to remind everybody that we are required to take the lowest bid. So you probably wouldn't ever do that in your home in a construction project, but by law we have to take the lowest reasonable bid, and this is what you end up with.
The only plus side out of all the projects we did, this has not affected any academics.
Yeah, which is why we're not kicking and screaming, but
Yeah,
it's frustrating nonetheless.
Certain people are not kicking, but certain people are screaming.
Right.
So I'm not happy, with the contractor, and it's been voiced repeated times.
Okay.
And on the middle school auditorium, the architect is finalizing the specs and has got input from the players at the middle school need be, so they're working on those and hopefully going out to bid in the early part of the new year. And that's all I have.
Fantastic. Oh, Jill left. Any questions for Peter on facilities or any of the construction? No? Everybody's good over here? Moving on to committee reports. Ms. Kenny for personnel.
Personnel has not met.
Okay, curriculum, Mrs. Ciccarelli.
We have not met either since our last meeting.
Mr. Gilfillan, finance and facilities.
Oh, we just met. Does this work?
Yes.
He controls it.
No. A number of different things. One, we continue to talk about the state aid that we received in 2019, and Mike and Pete are continuing to allocate that into different programs, coming from class officers all the way through new math materials. We discussed the issue of tuition students. That was bounced back to the policy committee. Auditor, as you guys all heard, we are clean as a whistle. Mike had actually, through all his work in terms of the continued focus on student security, proposed to us looking at a opportunity for 3M window film, which actually add a coating to certain. We're looking at which glass and which windows, et cetera, we're going to potentially put this on, but it will allow for windows to not shatter. So whereas a bullet could potentially put a hole in it, it will not shatter, which is just another level of security for our school system. We're just looking at how many of the windows and how vast we want to potentially do this program. And last but not least, and I don't want everyone to go bananas in town, and just say this is on a pilot stage. We did speak about a potential full-day kindergarten pilot program within the
Tuition-based.
district. It will be tuition-based. I don't want everyone going bananas. We're looking at this. We're not guaranteeing it. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people to show up to the next meeting asking us when they can get their kids into full-day kindergarten. Don't forget, we are not required to offer kindergarten by law, and but we are going to because of space issues and other things, and of course, Jill's favorite word, redistricting. We are going to look at this on a pilot basis. That being said, I'd like to thank everybody in the board and actually everybody in town. I think we had all worked on that, on the arts for years and years and years in terms of trying to bring focus to the rebuilding of the arts and the art centers in the high school and the middle school. It took a long, long time. It took a lot of different iterations. It took a lot of time on the board. In our opinion, we had really taken care of the schools themselves. We had taken care of the athletic facilities in this town. But we always wanted to put more emphasis and more dollars into the arts center. So it was extremely gratifying after all these years to walk into that facility last Friday and see the fruits of all the efforts of everyone in town on the board. It was just a different feeling and a different aura about the place now that it's actually looks decent. So listen, I'm happy for everyone. I know everyone here had a piece and a part of it. It was definitely worth all the effort and the money. It was truly a stupendous upgrade, I think. So we meet in probably January.
Matt, just a quick question on the pilot full-day kindergarten. Mike, if you offered full-day kindergarten in the district, once it's offered, you cannot retract it. Is that a true statement? Or no, I made that up?
Be free or tuition?
No, regular. Like if I thought Summit had offered it and then they wanted to reel back a little bit because their enrollment. Again, if I'm making that up, just say you're making that up.
I think you're making that up.
Okay.
Except with
That's
with the caveat that if we tell parents that we are going to offer this opportunity and we identify students that we would admit as full-time kindergarten students, we would not, if we did that, let's just say in February, and then come May we had a change of heart, we'd have to offer, we couldn't retract it at that point for the upcoming year. I don't think that would be right. And parents would have lost the opportunity to consider other options.
Certainly. But 3 years down the road, if the enrollment, if we ran into some dire straits,
Sure.
you can be retracted.
Sure.
Okay. So I did make the other part up. Okay. That's good news, though.
That's one of your new words, retraction.
That's right. I didn't want to say Indian giver.
Yeah. Redistricting, retraction, all the different
That's
keywords.
right. I'm happy you said the word redistricting because we have now said that word every meeting since April of 2016.
Retract, redistrict.
Redistrict.
and tuition. Those are your three key
Excellent.
words.
Does anybody have any questions for Matt on any of the finance and facility items? Is your goal to possibly, if everything goes well and I don't rain on your parade with my borough report, is it to offer it in the fall?
I think we want to explore that possibility.
That possibility,
Not commit
okay.
to it just yet. We have, obviously, this is the holiday season. Once the new year hits, we begin our kindergarten registration process. So parents register for the upcoming school year beginning in January. And that will give us a better idea of
Yes
where
or
the
no?
numbers may fall. And between now and then, I can speak with our principals about what, how we're looking at utilizing the space, what space needs we know we'll need based on the kids who are currently in first and second grade, and then we can kind of sketch out some scenarios to consider.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sure. Go ahead, Mike.
Mike, what have we gotten any indication of how many families would be interested in that program? I mean, what's driving that? Just to fill me in. Have we sent out any any requests for any interested parties? Do we have any parameters? Is it any numbers at all? I'd just like to know kind of what color there is in regard to what's driving this beyond, I know we had a few people at the last meeting.
Sure.
'Cause I'm not familiar with the background.
Sure. We have no firm numbers, but this is something that I am asked about quite often. By prospective parents, by parents who are considering buying a home in Chatham, by parents who are already in the school system but have a younger child. So I can't tell you definitively what the exact numbers are, but I know that there is demand for full-day kindergarten. I believe now the number is close to 90% of school districts in New Jersey offer full-day kindergarten for free as part of their program. We're in the minority. If it's not 10%, it's very close to 10%. There are very few school districts remaining that don't provide full-day kindergarten for students. What I would imagine we would do as a first step, whether it's this coming September or the following September, is try it out, have a pilot program, just like we've done with preschool. Right now, we do offer a lottery system for preschool for students who are general education students. The demand always exceeds the spaces that we have available. So I would guess that if we advertise this, we would get demand that far exceeds what we can possibly provide, and then we'd have a better idea of what the numbers specifically are in terms of people that would want it.
Got it. Thank you.
So it would be similar to the preschool program, in other words, lottery-based and tuition-based.
Yes.
Got it.
Most likely that's how it would begin as a pilot.
And all right. Excuse me. Would this be considered at each of the K through 3 schools, or only at one of, how would you roll that out? Would you anticipate rolling that out if we went down the pilot program?
We'd have to that's one of the logistical issues we'd have to figure out. For sure, Milton is where we have the greatest number of classrooms with bathrooms. So Milton is the prime target for a classroom like this, but we wouldn't necessarily have to limit it to Milton. So I was telling the finance committee that we've had at both Southern and Washington and Milton, for that matter, an odd number of sections from year to year, depending on what year it is. So we might just one year, for example, at Washington Avenue have 3 sections of kindergarten. When we have 3 sections of kindergarten, we're essentially allocating 2 classrooms to kindergarten. One classroom houses AM, PM, the other classroom houses just AM, and then in the PM we utilize the room for some other purpose, or it stays empty. Usually we utilize it for something else, like a smaller group instruction. So we could conceivably, if the enrollment and registration yields lower numbers and we work out some logistics, offer it in more than one place than only Milton. But I think it's too early. We're still just kind of beginning the discussion about this.
I guess the reason I ask that is, if it were to be opened up to a lottery, would it be part of redistricting, or would you open it to Chatham Township families and Chatham Borough families if it was just going to be piloted at Milton?
We would open it for everybody for sure. But the logistics of who provides the transportation is something we'd have to discuss. If the child remains half of the day in one school and then transitions for the other half of the day, if the child doesn't do that and simply reports to Milton, if it were Milton for the full day, we'd have to work through all of that and have those answers available for parents before they make the decision to try to apply.
Thank you.
Excellent. Oh, sure. Go ahead, Mike.
Would we consider, I know we're talking about on a tuition basis, but are we considering that as a break-even scenario, or are we expecting to get additional revenue, discretionary revenue from that?
We would be looking at revenue generation.
Okay.
So even a tuition amount that is less than competitive with what private kindergartens cost would end up yielding revenue most likely for the district.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks. Moving over to Mr. Arnott for policy and planning.
Policy and planning has not met. We meet next December 3rd. And one of the items we'll take up is out-of-district tuition. So that's on the calendar, but we have not met since the last meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I'm going to move over to the liaison reports. I'm up first for Chatham Borough. I just wanted to mention that the Post Office Plaza redevelopment is having a workshop. The Borough Council is holding a workshop on next Wednesday, November 28th. It'll be held at the library at 7 p.m. And this is to discuss potential redevelopment concepts of the Post Office Plaza and refine community vision. So if you are interested, please try and participate in that. That's 7 o'clock at the library. And I bring this up at a Board of Ed meeting because we're always interested in how this redevelopment or development across both towns are going to impact the district's enrollment, not just in numbers, but also in the timeline. So from a planning board approval, we've already heard projections of numbers. The skate park is going to yield possibly 24 units. The Christmas tree farm, 54 units. A property at the end of town that currently has a dentist office on it, closer to Madison, that's been approved for 18 units. River Road, a preliminary approved. Again, this is just planning board. This is nothing that's been passed yet. The River Road development, the one parcel closest to Shunpike, so not all the way over to Crown Oil, that's already been approved for a parcel of 48 units. And the Post Office Plaza has an unknown number of units because they're still in the very early stages. So again, we're just keeping an eye on those numbers because that may have an impact on, the kindergarten, the pilot, enrollment. Again, if that's all dispersed across the district, it shouldn't be too much. If you get an influx in a particular area, it could be crushing. So we'll just keep an eye on that. So again, if you're interested, please attend that meeting. I believe borough residents can participate online, and I only say borough residents because you have to have a sign-on and prove residency. But there's more information on the borough website. Chatham Township, Ms. Clark is not here. Athletic boosters, they have not met, have they? I didn't go.
Not since our last meeting.
Okay, they have not met. Performing arts, Mr. Arnott.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the teachers, staff, supervisors, actors, actresses, pit crew, musicians, stagecraft people. I hope I'm not leaving anyone out. Obviously, the parents of all these kids who are so heavily involved in making Radium Girls the tremendous success it was this past weekend. As Matt alluded to, the first night, which was supposed to be for our seniors, weather had an unfortunate, that didn't happen. So it was the other two nights. I know my daughter came back from college and with my niece went to see it. I did not, so I apologize for that. But congratulations are in order for that amazing production of Radium Girls in the brand new Performing Arts Center. On Sunday, Chatham High School students Liam Driscoll, Matthew Marquet, Ronan Green, and Adisha Roy represented Chatham in the All-State Mixed Chorus in Prudential Hall at NJ PAC. So congratulations to those students and their teacher, Ken Bryson. It's a fantastic achievement. Upcoming performance dates and reminders. Please mark your calendars. The Performing Arts Department will be hosting the North Jersey Regional Choir Festival on November 29th, featuring choirs from West Orange, Verona, Mahwah, East Orange, Randolph, and Chatham High School. Looking into December, please visit the Performing Arts page on chathamnj.org to stay up to date, because we have about 18 winter concerts that I'm not going to mention, but those are coming up as well. So look to that page to see those. Thank you.
Thanks, Sal. Chatham Education Foundation, Ms. Kenny.
Yes, I'd just like to remind everyone that the annual appeal letter has gone out, and if you're able to keep them in mind in the season of giving, we'd all appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. Recreation, Mr. Gilfillan?
Nothing.
And PTO District Cabinet.
They met last week, but you were there, I'm sure. I was not.
Yes, was it last week? No, was it last week or the week
was last
before?
week.
Yes,
Last week there was a blizzard.
It was yesterday.
2 weeks ago. I thought so. I thought it was 2 weeks ago. Yes, it was 2 weeks ago. Nothing to report.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 5th public session and the November 13th public and executive session.
One abstention on both is Mr. Gilfillan.
Oh, that's easy enough. Did somebody second it?
Second.
Second. I thought I heard Ann second it. Oh, extension on both. Okay. Peter, do you mind just doing a roll call while I read?
The minutes for November 5th and November 13th, public and executive session. Mr. Gilfillan.
Abstain.
Mr. Onick.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Valenti.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda passed 7-0. The minutes items passed 7-0-1.
Okay, excellent. We have our first opportunity for public commentary. Just a notice on the public time limit. Hearing of the citizens during the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for today's meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. Ms. Kenny will help me out with that. And also, it is not an opportunity for back and forth and questions. After everybody sits down, if we can address an item that was brought up, we will try to, but we're not going to engage in lengthy back and forth. This is an opportunity for the public. So the floor is yours, Ms. Devlin.
Jane Devlin, Chatham Township. I'd like to please talk about homework. Before doing so, I recognize the school district doesn't have a set homework policy across the board, although I still contend this would be beneficial. So tonight, I guess, when I'm talking more about a homework plan, or if I say policy in quotes. But that said, I want to acknowledge Principal Grove's responsiveness. Presently, there is a break from homework, no homework during the Thanksgiving holiday. This was in place, but overlooked being placed on the CHS calendar. But Principal Grove now adjusted this, and attention students, parents, families, and teachers, there is no homework during this Thanksgiving break. I would like to please go on record urging teachers to embrace the spirit and intent of no homework break. Break from homework becomes meaningless and is defeated if the teachers circumvent this and assign homework, for example, on Tuesday but not Wednesday, and having it due the day after the Thanksgiving holiday, the Tuesday after the Thanksgiving holiday. Well, yeah, they technically complied because no homework is given on Tuesday, but the intent and the purpose is diluted. So no homework is just that, a break during Thanksgiving break, not just a shuffling of due dates. No homework gives kids a mental respite, release from stressors, provides emotional rejuvenation, and time to be more fully present in family life and away from school life. It's just that, a break. It's not total abdication of academic rigors. We want to send a healthy message. It's okay to step back, recharge, and be tranquil. No homework is that message put into action. I'm urging the principals of the high school and middle school to review the spirit and intent of the no homework break with their teachers this week, and I hope students and parents take note too. And now in closing, I'd like to take a page actually from Ms. Chambers, board member. I want to call attention to a great article that just ran in TAP and commend Ms. Latarullo and Ms. Murphy for their work with the R&R room at CHS. I want to thank the Chatham Education Fund for supporting this concept, and I'd like to also acknowledge the students and teachers, specifically Ms. Crowley and Mr. Ferguson. The article was great, and I look forward to hearing more about a possible R&R club on the horizon. And speaking of R&R, Chatham High School's Animal Club, Aspen, is also promoting wellness and well-being by sponsoring therapy dog visits upcoming. So that's all good stuff. And so much of this started from the top by our superintendent, encouraging wellness, well-being, and mindfulness in our school community. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Devlin. Any additional public commentary? No, seeing none for now. There's another opportunity at the end. So we're going to go through the regular agenda, starting with personnel. Ms. Kenny?
Yes, I'd like to move action items A1 to A10 for vote.
Second.
And just a reminder, these are posted on Friday before the board meeting, so if anybody wants to look at them, they're always out there. And we look at them over the weekend, which is why it appears that we might go through these rather quickly. Does anybody have any questions for anybody on the Personnel Committee, or Ms. Grant, or Dr. LaSousa? No? Nobody's asked Beth a question in a while. She loves questions. Loves being on camera. Alrighty, seeing none, Peter?
Agenda items A1 through A10. Mr. Gilfillan? Yes. Mr. Onick? Yes. Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan? Mr. Valenti? And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Thank you, Peter. Moving on to Finance and Facilities, Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes, I'd like to move action items B1 through 8 on our regular agenda. Sorry, getting old. Just one thank you from the Washington Avenue PTO. There's actually no monetary figure attached to this, which is the first time, but a number of different things. A blood pressure cuff, a whiteboard, an electric pencil sharpener for each classroom. I could have sworn we had those forever. Gotta go back to the old ones. And acrylic frames for bathrooms and 12 power gens and 15 boxes of company cars. We're a little low on the donations right now. Come on, people, it's a holiday season.
Why is there a whiteboard in the third grade class? Third in the hallway. I'm just reading what it says. No, you don't have to answer now. Just odd why they need it in the hallway. They holding.
Telling kids to no longer run. Puts up the food for the day that they're serving.
Well, I know that
Down in the third grade
the
wing.
cork boards in a lot of those hallways are old or aged, so we're trying to replace them with more, with just better looking stuff.
Oh, so it's not in the hallway. It's in the third grade wing to be used by the teachers?
I'm familiar with that. I spoke to Ms. Dunlow about it. So the thought was that we could create, we have a reading incentive program there where she's advocating for reading. So I spoke to Ms. Dudlow about how we wanted to advocate for more mathematics, and the thought was that we could put some math problems up on this board that students can kind of look at and solve while they were walking through the hallways, which I know would probably be a
This is like Goodwill Hunting. They just solved.
yeah, exactly. We're gonna make those third graders into geniuses.
Hey, as long as they're not living in my basement forever.
Yeah.
Start whenever
So
you have
it's
to.
more like an interactive display for students to be engaged.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
I apologize. I went a little blank.
That's okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any additional? Oh, Mary, go ahead.
I do. I have one question, actually. I was really pleased to see that we were getting an IDEA grant, and I was wondering if maybe, I guess it's IDEA grant. I mean, I read a little bit online, but I was wondering if we might speak to how we apply for that, because I'm sure that takes a lot of time, and it does produce quite a nice sum to put into our budget. And I was wondering if someone would be able to speak to how we apply and how we expect to use those funds. I'm sure there's a lot of work that goes into that.
Well, I'll give the general overview for number 3 and 4, and then I'll pass it over to Peter, and he can kick it over to Vin or Karen. But 3 and 4 refer to essentially the federal funding that we get, and our federal public education is not referenced in the Constitution. It's a state power, state responsibility for the most part. But what's happened over the years, particularly in the second half of the 20th century, is that various laws and acts approved by Congress have then created funding sources for school districts to implement certain features or certain laws that have been approved. So IDEA is for special education. Title I is for students who are impoverished. We usually don't qualify for Title I, but we have qualified a time or two in recent years. This year we don't have Title I funding. Title II is more general. We get that every year, and Title III is for immigrant funding. So it's essentially doled out to the states by the federal government, and then the states have us complete an application process. And Peter can speak sort of more specifically about the application process, but Vin handles the IDEA and Karen handles the Title II and III, and if we get any Title I, she does that too.
The applications are done in conjunction with a lot of efforts from both Dr. D'Elia and Ms. Chase, respectively, for the IDA and the ESA, and also Tatiana Gilbert, my assistant, provides a lot of the financial input. The IDEA money is predominantly used for out-of-district special ed tuition. And the Title II, I'm going to defer to Karen because she's been altering how that money's used, so I'll defer to her for the correct use for this year.
So our allocation for Title II we've used for supporting a class size reduction. The whole spirit of Title II is that it's designed to improve instruction efforts for students, for improved student outcomes. So that's how we chose to use our funding this year.
Thank you. It's just a nice. I just want to give you guys accolades for applying, because I know that process is not easy, and that it's a great. And I appreciate you guys taking the effort and working with them to get that to our district. So thank you.
Excellent. Any additional questions? I know, Matt, you said we were light on donations, but Mr. Ryan has filled in nicely for you the last two meetings, and he read off boatloads of donations. Okay, Mr. Quill, do you mind?
Sure. Agenda items B1 through B8. Mr. Gilfillan? Yes. Mr. Arnick? Yes. Ms. Chambers? Yes. Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Valenti? Yes. And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Excellent. Moving over to curriculum, Mrs. Ciccarelli.
I'd like to move agenda items C1 and 2 on the regular agenda for vote.
Second. Okay, we have a second. I'm just going to jump ahead here since we can't ask any questions on either of these items. All those in favor of C1 and C2? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Moving on to policy, Mr. Arnock.
Move policy item 1 to vote, policy regulation 1613, disclosure and review of applications of an applicant's employment history. I'd like to move it for the public vote.
Second.
The board vote.
And we talked about this last time. Does anybody have any questions on this item? Go ahead, Mary.
I do have a question. I am on the policy committee, but I just want to share with the board that this is one of those policies that we are kind of comes down the pike through the state, and that we're kind of have to pass it. And it's good and it's bad, but I just wondered if, Beth, would you speak to how we're going to, I don't want to call it, it's for doing background checks on our employees. And I just wanted to know if you could speak to how we're going to handle that, because I think it's unfortunately come down upon us, and I just want to know how we were going to handle that on your end.
Is it background? I'm sorry. Is it background or disclosing employment history?
We have to do background checks on them.
Okay. I'm more I thought, and I apologize, because I thought it was if somebody left our district and somebody was requesting information from us about that employee.
Am I reading that wrong?
So-
Is that the wrong one?
I thought that was correct as well.
The new law is in addition to the longstanding criminal history background check. It went into effect June 1, which was particularly challenging, and that's pretty much the height of our hiring season. So the new law requires the employing entity to go back 20 years of employment history where an individual had direct contact with students in a paid scenario. We have tried to streamline the process as best we can, but certainly there's volume involved. So, we started June 1. It's been in effect, and we've been compliant as best we can be.
Got it. Okay.
I know that's a lot of man hours, and I just wanted to thank Beth, because that's unfortunately something that we were forced to take on and write policy on.
Right on June. Back to their camp counselor days. I mean, if it's a 22-year teacher, they were 20 years ago.
Thank you, Mary. That is a massive unfunded mandate. It's a perfect example of the state legislature being well-intentioned and trying to do good, but in fact making things much, much, much more difficult and forcing costs down our throats. And so just like the HIB law, which is designed to protect children, which is a wonderful thing that everyone should get behind, there are unintended consequences to the HIB law, which include increased legal costs for school districts, heightening anxiety and concern among parents over incidents that otherwise would be handled in a much, much more less confrontational manner, maybe I'd put it. This is an example of trying to prevent any person who doesn't belong in the occupation of working with children from being placed in a position where they could do harm, but it has enormous implications in terms of trying to get through the amount of time and effort and record keeping it takes to demonstrate that you've contacted every single employer for the previous 20 years where this person may have worked in contact with students. And just like Ms. Weber said, if we hire someone who's 29 years old and they've been in 2 different school districts and they've been employed in the summer for 6 different years in various capacities, we have to find a way to contact every employer, assuming that anyone at the other side of the phone or other side of the computer actually knows this individual, because of course there's turnover in places of employment. And on the flip side, when it's hiring season, we have the phone ringing literally off the hook nonstop from people who are trying to verify anyone who's ever worked in our school district in the past 20 years. So it's complicated. It was not well thought out. And I know a number of other districts that have already added staff to their human resources department, in some cases to do nothing more than basically handle criminal history, background checks for volunteers, and the quote-unquote pass the trash law that they implemented effective June 1.
Ugh.
Sorry for the tirade.
No, it's good. It's good dialogue. Thank you.
I do just want to say thank you for those man hours, because it's a lot that's been put on us.
So that seems like we have tremendous turnover in paraprofessionals. That includes those folks as well.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes, this
Can
is
you
a
talk
great
a little
point.
bit about that turnover?
Yes. So we have 140 maybe paraprofessionals in the district. They're all, or 98% of them are tied to IEPs and the needs of our special education students. And they're all, again, about 98% of them, maybe 99% of them, part-time employees. And frequently they are folks who either are doing this as a part-time job and they're happy doing so, or they're folks who are trying to enter into the profession and secure full-time employment. So when they are offered a teaching position, let's just say in another school district, they then leave. So there's turnover in this particular role in the district. And when we have to go out and check the employment history for 20 years on every applicant, or at least every person we're recommending for employment, or they're leaving to go to another district and their employer or new employer is contacting us to get a record check, it creates a lot of work for us.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments? Peter?
Agenda item D1, Mr. Gilfillan.
Yes.
Mr. Onick.
Yes.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes.
Ms. Chigarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Valenti.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda item passes 8-0.
Excellent, thank you. We have our opportunity for board business. Anybody have new items they want to share? Old items? No, good. Just a reminder, we do have an executive session, correct?
Yes.
And where is that being held? This is
It's going to be held in A131, so you're going to walk out the door and make a left, and make your first left on that hallway, and the classroom is A131.
Okay, great, thank you. And that's for a confidential student matter. So we have our second opportunity for public commentary. If anybody would like to address the board, please step up to the mic, introduce yourself.
Thank you. I have a suggestion for the American Sign Language students, perhaps at level 2, that came to my mind when Miss Weber was speaking about kids communicating amongst themselves and also insight into the deaf community. Maybe our students could buddy with the Summit School of Speech students. Maybe our students could go there or theirs could come here for some type of story reading programs in sign language. So I just wanted to make that suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Devlin. Any additional public commentary? I thought maybe Luke was making a move toward the mic. No? Seeing none? Okay, I make a motion to... Thank you, Mason, for laughing. I make a motion to close the public session. All those in favor? Okay, don't disappear. At least 5 of you stick around.